G'day everyone, E53 here for the first time in quite a while actually. I only realised the other day how long it had been since I put together a video, and yeah, just been crazy busy. A lot of the sim racing championships that I'm running in are sort of coming down to their final stages now at the end of the year, and yeah, focusing fairly hard on that. I actually got some really big sim racing news coming up reasonably soon, sort of start of the new year, so that's all really exciting. But yeah, it's also been almost a year, almost unbelievably, since I did any real life racing. The last event I did was last year's Willunga Hill Climb, and you can have a look at that video that I did earlier on that particular experience. But that event's coming around again, and given the fact that it is only around about 10 minutes from my house, I think, well, I've got to go and get involved in it. So that's coming up now. This I thought gave me a really good opportunity to do a video that I've wanted to do for a little while. And it all comes about because, obviously, having been involved in motorsport for about 10 years, every now and again, you get talking to people about it, non-motorsport people, or people who only sort of have a passing interest or whatever, and they all sort of say, oh, I'd like to give that a try, that sounds good, or whatever. And you say, well, come out and have a go. And they all generally come back saying, oh, I couldn't afford it. And when you actually get to talking to them, what really seems to come out is they don't believe that they can afford a race car. They think they all cost six figures, and let's be honest, if you want to do it really seriously, they do. But a lot of people don't realise how cheaply you can actually get involved in terms of some of the local events that get put on, and the fact that there are many events out there that actually have allowances made so you can enter a standard road car in the event and come out and compete. And a lot of the events, including the one that I'm going to be doing in a couple of weeks, actually have dedicated classes for the standard road cars only. So you've got to leave everything fairly well standard. It is a road registered car. It must be fully road registered. But you're allowed to take those up there with minor modifications and actually compete. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to try something a little bit different. So I'm not actually going to take the RX-7 in there this year. I'm going to take my road-going BMW in the event, and this gives me an opportunity to show you guys exactly how cheap and easy it is to modify a road car and go up and compete in motorsport. So it might be a little bit of an eye-opener for some people who don't realise necessarily how cheap it is, and at the end of the video I'll be putting together a total costing about how much exactly this has all cost me to convert the road car, a couple of small modifications, into a car which is legal to go racing with. So let's head out to the garage and take a look at the car, and we'll get started. Okay guys, so here is the car that we're going to be using. It is a E30 BMW, as you can probably tell, 323i 6-cylinder. So I guess, you may say, oh, it's obviously had some modifications done, etc. Do I need those for racing? No, you don't. It just happens to be the only car I've got to work with here that's really fit for purpose. I mean, I could use the old Hilux outside, and it would be exactly the same principle. It's going to be the same principle if you wanted to run a Commodore or a Daewoo or that thing going by or whatever. So yeah, this is basically what you need to do to take a standard road car or a road-going, road-registered car to make it eligible for events. This is going to obviously assume that your car is road worthy, I suppose. So, good tyres, good brakes, everything works, seat belts, etc. They will check that stuff, and obviously for good reason. And to be perfectly honest, if your car is not roadworthy, it's certainly not track worthy, certainly shouldn't be considering racing it. So the first thing we're going to do is just start under the bonnet. That's probably where the scrutineers are going to start as well, so we'll start there. Okay, so as you can see under the bonnet here, there's nothing too remarkable, but one of the things that the scrutineers always want, it's actually in the regulations, is they want on the throttle mechanism, if we just zoom in there, on the throttle mechanism for the car,
And of course everyone's going to be a little bit different, but they want an extra spring on there which performs the function of closing the throttle should the original spring fail. It's a fairly antiquated rule, but a lot of cars that race these days are still fairly antiquated anyway, so certainly not beyond the realms of possibility that you might get a sticking throttle. And despite the fact that it is a regulation, it's also very cheap insurance for you against something like that. So what I've done is I've gone out to Bunnings, which is local hardware chain, well, nationwide hardware chain really. If you're overseas you may not have heard of them, but I've just gone and bought myself a little spring. Cost me $4 I think, so not a whole lot. So I'm just going to go and attach this now to the throttle mechanism. As you can see, there's actually a couple of really ideal places on that mechanism to attach it. Not every car is going to be that easy. You just got to sometimes get a little bit creative. Quite often you'll find guys when they have like front wheel drives with east-west engines or something like that, that they will actually attach a little hook to the firewall or something like that and run the spring in between the throttle mechanism and the firewall, just because there's nowhere else to attach it to. So just going to attach this one now. Alright guys, so as you can see that spring is well and truly on. Just linked it on between that little bracket and the throttle mechanism there. Just had to bend the ends out a little bit to get it around, and as you will see, if I can keep this in shot here, it does perform the function of pulling the throttle closed, and it's still got the enough movement in it that it can go all the way out. So that's exactly what we're going to want to see, and that is legal. So that's step one done. So the next thing as well, which I'm not quite ready to do yet, mainly because it hasn't arrived, is the battery is here. It's in its standard location up against the firewall there, as they are in most of these Beamers. And what they normally want is a blue triangle. In fact, if I take you around to the side of the RX-7, I'll show you what I mean. And you can see there's a blue triangle sticker on the side of the car, and that basically denotes the position of the battery. So in the BMW, we are going to have to put it either on the bonnet, sort of around the top edge of the bonnet there, or on the side down there, just to mark out the position of the battery for the officials. For an emergency situation, they need to know how to shut the car off. So that's basically, you can do that with anything. You can do that with blue tape. You can buy one like I did for the Mazda. But what I've actually done, because you can probably see the paint on this car is pretty decent, I didn't want to mess it up with sticky stuff all over it. I've actually just ordered a magnetic one off eBay. It cost me like $8, so I'll probably put that up here on the bonnet when that arrives, but you'll definitely see it when the time comes. So those are two things. There's another couple of things we need to check off though. Alright, so of course you're going to also need, it's probably no one surprised, you actually need to have a fire extinguisher as well. So you can get these from pretty much any auto parts shop. I think they're about a 1 kilo, 1 kilo dry powder, and they all, the automotive ones, all come with a little bracket like that. Now what most people normally do is they just get a couple of Tech screws or whatever and just screw that into the floor of the car. The rule says that you must have it within arm's reach of the driver when he's in his normal seated position. So a lot of people put it on the floor right in front of the driver's seat or on the hump. So I've got all power window controls and center console there, and I don't want to move those because it is still a road car and I'm keeping it complete. So it's going to go. I also don't want to drill holes in the floor, but I've got a solution to that which I'm going to show you guys. But just have a quick look on here as well. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it says 2016. Now there's a 2-year limit on these, and that one is January 2016, as you can see. So that would have run out in January 2018. So I'm going to need a new one. So I'll use this one as an example, but I'm going to have to pick up a new one before I go to the event. Now, because I didn't want to cut any holes in my floor, drill holes in the floor, and if you've got a car that you kind of care about, you probably don't either. There is a solution. It's called this. It's called the Bracketeer. It comes from a guy in the States that actually makes them. and it's like a universal fire extinguisher bracket. And what it actually does is it bolts to your seat rails. So there's all, as you can probably see on the diagram there, there's all adjustable holes and everything like this. I think it cost me around about, I think from memory it was $117 to get it over here. And you know, realistically, if you're reasonably handy with metal, you can probably make up your own. But for me, who's not and doesn't have any metalworking tools or anything like that, I just ordered one. I thought it was just as easy just to order one, and it actually mounts just in front of your seat like that. So I'll just show you in the car where I've started putting it in. Alright, so just having a look down here, that's just in front of my driver's seat there, and that's basically the first part of it. There's a couple of little pieces of flat metal that stick out in front of that, and the fire extinguisher will just mount to that. So good way to avoid having to drill holes in your floor if you don't want to. So keep that in mind, called the bracketeer, and it's yeah, fairly easy to stick in, no complaints. Alright guys, so one of the other things that they actually like you to have on the car, in fact require that you have on the car, is clear adhesive film on the headlights. Now if you think back to maybe pictures that you may have seen of old touring cars racing in the 60s, they sort of had like masking tape or whatever over the lights. The whole idea behind that is if you pick up any front end damage, it doesn't shower the track in shards of glass, and you can actually basically just hold the whole light together and prevent the danger for anyone else. Now this car normally has a clear headlight protector over the glass like that. That's not quite good enough. You actually do need to put that adhesive stuff on there, and they do check it. So no point getting there and finding out that you can't race for that reason. So I've taken the headlights cover off there. Now what I always use for this, if you think back to your school days and what your mum used to cover your exercise books in, the good old clear contact. So basically just a clear film. I think a roll of it costs about $5 to $10, something like that. It's not very expensive, but yeah, so you just cut that out into the headlight shape, stick that on over your headlights. Unfortunately I've got 4 of them, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. But yeah, so you get those on there, and yeah, they will check it. So I'll probably go there with these headlight covers off actually, so they can just check it nice and easy, and just pop it back on afterwards. So that is the last thing I believe that you actually need to do to the car itself. But there's one other very important component that you need to have on the day. Alright, you knew this was coming, didn't you? Of course, the helmet. Now for the level of events that you're doing, the type of events where you can enter a standard road car, any motorbike helmet should really do, so long as it meets the Australian standard, and they're going to want to be able to check that. Wait for it to focus. Check that particular label there. Mine's a bit scuffed up. I've had this helmet for around about 10 years, so it's probably actually due for a new one. But yeah, it gets the job done. So I think it cost me around about $350 new. You can always pick them up second hand if you want, but you never really know what's happened to it, and I don't really want to stick my head in where somebody else's sweaty head's been. So yeah, went out and bought it new. But that really, when you think about it, is the most expensive component of this whole exercise. So probably a good thing to have something there to protect your head. But apart from that, this car has gone from road car to racer for not very much money. So we'll be able to enter that as it sits right now with the fire extinguisher, your throttle spring, clear film over the headlights, and of course, as I say, being reasonably roadworthy and so on, tyres, brakes, all that sort of stuff, seat belts, they do check seat belts as well. That'll be ready to race. So that's basically all we need to go through for this particular car, for any car actually, any road car.
Okay, so that's really it. There's nothing else to go through. Turning a road car into a car that is legal for competition does not cost as much as you think. So if we're just to go through those prices again, about what we're looking at, approximate prices of course, it's going to differ wherever you go, but the spring, the little throttle spring, $4. The magnetic triangle, which I haven't got yet but is coming, eBay, $8. About $50 for your fire extinguisher, and I did check up, and that bracketeer did cost me $117 Australian. Plus obviously also the $10 for the roller contact, for the headlights, and that's $189. $189, less than $200 to change the car from a road going car into something that you can take out and race on the weekends. So, of course, there are downsides to doing it this way. If it's your daily driver, you obviously, if you crash it or you blow it up or something like that, you may not be able to get to work on Monday, which is obviously a risk you take. But I mean, for this BMW here, I've had it for many years. It's a pride and joy, pretty much. I'm not going to take the risk of blowing it up or anything like that. So I will be driving a little bit within myself just to basically enjoy the car. And keep in mind as well that when you enter these events, Wollonga Hill Climb, which we're doing, is just one example, but a lot of the events, hill climb sprints, all that kind of stuff, have classes for road cars, and you're in a class with only other road cars of similar engine capacity to yours. So it's not like you're going to show up and you're going to get drilled by all these really quick race cars. You're not even really racing against them. You're racing against guys in similar cars to yours. So for that kind of outlay, and you might bring home a trophy, a class trophy. So it's definitely nothing to be sneezed at, and it's really quite a smart way to go about motorsport. And if you can afford a separate car for this purpose, it just shows as well, even if you're not using your daily driver, if you can afford to go out and buy a cheap car, fix it up a little bit and make sure it meets these safety standards, then you can go out and have a great time for really not very much money. And when you look at how much people spend on football boots or cricket gear or anything else, it's not too bad a deal in the end. So hopefully watching this might encourage one of you guys to actually get out and give it a try. Maybe somebody who has written it off as being too expensive, get out there and have a go, and get in touch with your local club or whatever to see what their particular requirements are. You'll need a license, and also you'll need to be able to show your car registration and things like that. So there are entry fees as well to look at, but the grand total, that stuff's only going to be a couple of $100 as well. So we're not talking mega dollars here. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully you learned something. I'm going to be doing another video of the actual event itself when we get there in a couple of weeks' time, and just give you guys a bit of an idea of how we get on, and I hope to get a little bit more video this time of the atmosphere and a little bit else that's going on at the event rather than just onboards, but we'll see how we go. So until next time, thanks very much. See you later.